The sky above the desert was quiet. Then, a sudden flash. A dark metal ship broke through the clouds, flying low over the cracked red land. It looked like a giant insect, its wings wide, its engines growling. From its open side bay, something small was thrown out. A body. It dropped like trash from the sky, spinning, falling fast until it crashed into the sand with a dull thud. The ship didn't stop. It kept flying, disappearing behind the rocky horizon. All that was left behind was a girl. She lay face down, her skin a pale silver-blue color. Her arms were thin, her bones stuck out. Her clothes were rags, torn, dirty, and too small for her. A strange metal collar blinked around her neck. Her back rose and fell weakly. She was still alive, but just barely. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She simply lay there, as if waiting to die. Far away, on the edge of the desert, a human man named Jaren was fixing the roof of his small farming shed. He wiped sweat from his brow and looked up when he heard something, a boom in the sky. He turned and saw smoke in the distance. His eyes narrowed. "That wasn't thunder," he whispered. Jaren wasn't a soldier anymore. He hadn't been one in years. But something in his gut told him to move. He grabbed his bag, filled a bottle with water, slung an old rifle across his back, and set out walking toward the smoke. It took him more than an hour to reach it. When he found her, he froze. At first he thought it was a doll, too small, too broken. But then she coughed and he realized she was real. A living girl. An alien. Her eyes fluttered open as he knelt beside her. They were large and shining, a deep violet color. Her lips moved, but no words came out. Jaren gently touched her shoulder. She flinched hard. "It's okay," he said softly. "I'm not here to hurt you." She stared at him with fear. Her hands curled tightly into fists. He looked around. No one. No ship. No signs of help. Only this girl. Half dead in the sand. He had two choices, walk away or carry her. Jaren sighed and slipped off his coat. "All right, kid," he muttered. "Let's get you out of the sun." He wrapped her gently in the coat, then lifted her in both arms. She was light. Too light. Back at his home, Jaren laid her down on a soft bed in the back room. He boiled water, cleaned her wounds, and carefully removed the blinking collar from her neck. She had bruises on her arms, burns on her legs. Whoever had owned her didn't treat her like a child. He saw numbers tattooed into her skin. A slave mark. Jaren's jaw tightened. He had seen marks like this during the war. He wasn't going to let this girl die. Not like this. She woke up in the middle of the night. The room was dark, warm, and quiet. The first thing she said in a broken voice was, Will you sell?" "Me too?" Jaren was sitting in a chair nearby. He blinked in surprise. "What?" She looked at him with wide, scared eyes. Is this a new cage? Am I to be used? Or broken?" Jaren slowly stood. "No," he said. "You're safe here." "No, one is safe," she whispered. He didn't argue. He just walked to the kitchen and brought her warm soup. She stared at the bowl like it was poison. "Eat," he said gently. "You need your strength." She took one spoonful, then another. Then she began to cry. Quiet, confused tears that wouldn't stop. No one had fed her before. No one had saved her before. That night, Jaren stood outside and looked up at the sky. Who was this girl? Why had they thrown her out like trash? And most important, would they come back for her? The wind blew cold across the sand. Inside, the girl was asleep. Her small hands clutching the edge of the blanket like it might disappear. Jaren made a silent promise, whoever she was, whatever she had suffered, he wouldn't let her go back to that life again. Not while he was breathing. The sun rose slowly over the dry hills, painting the sky orange and red. Inside the small desert house, The girl with silver blue skin lay, still under warm blankets. Her eyes were shut, her breathing soft but uneven. The burns on her arms were healing. The bruises had started to fade. But the fear in her heart was still deep. Jaren sat beside her again, wiping her forehead with a damp cloth. He had treated wounded soldiers before, but this was different. She was small, quiet, and afraid of everything. Even his shadow made her flinch. He had tried asking questions, but she said little. Not her name, not her age, not where she came from. Only that soft, shaking question from last night still echoed in his ears. "Will you sell me, too?" Later that morning she woke up suddenly, gasping. Her eyes darted around the room, unsure where she was. She crawled back in panic, knocking over the water cup on the side table. Her voice came out hoarse and broken. "Don't hit me. Please, I didn't steal the food." Jaren rushed in. "Easy, it's okay, you're not in danger." She blinked. Her whole body shook. "No cages?" she asked. "No cages," Jaren said, kneeling beside her. "Only blankets and soup." She didn't understand the joke. She just looked down, tears falling silently. Jaren stood and took a deep breath. Then he said something strange. "You know, it's hard to help someone who doesn't even have a name." She looked up at him. "I don't have one," she said quietly. "Just a number. 617 Zeta." "That's not a name," he said firmly. "That's a tag on a piece of junk. How about I give you a real one?" She didn't speak. He smiled a little. "Aya," he said. "I'll call you Aya. Means light in an old earth tongue." She said the word slowly. "Aya." Her lips curved just a little. For the first time, she didn't look like a slave. She looked like a person. Over the next 2 days, Aya stayed mostly silent. She never left the corner of the room. She slept, curled up, knees tight to her chest. Even with food and medicine, her eyes stayed hollow. Jaren cooked simple meals and left water by her side. He didn't ask more questions. But he did talk to her anyway, about the weather, the crops, even funny things that happened in his past. She never replied, but she listened. Slowly, the fear in her eyes began to fade. On the 3rd day, something changed. She was sitting on the floor, staring at a spoon of soup. Jaren entered and said casually, "If you wanted to help with something, you could feed the chickens." She looked confused. "You want me to work?" "Not work," he said. "Just help." Her face went blank. Then, without warning, she said something new. "No one ever asked me that before." They went outside together for the first time. Jaren handed her a small bucket of feed. The chickens clucked and pecked around her feet. At first she was stiff and nervous, but then one of the chickens jumped onto her bucket and she laughed. Just a tiny soft sound, but it was real. Jaren pretended not to notice. But inside, his heart lifted. That night, Aya sat by the window. Watching the stars, she spoke suddenly. "I was taken from a village, long ago. My parents died when the raiders came." Jaren didn't interrupt. "I was young. They put us in cages. The weak ones died. The quiet ones were sold. The ones who fought were beaten." She turned to face him. "They called me worthless, said I wasn't strong enough for labor or the other things." Jaren's jaw clenched. "So, they threw me out," she whispered. "Better to waste me than feed me." There was a long silence. Then Jaren said, "They were wrong." She blinked. "You're not worthless, Aya. Not to me." Suddenly, the alarm bell outside the house rang once. A motion sensor. Something or someone was near. Jaren stood up, grabbing his rifle from the wall. Aya froze. "Stay inside," he said calmly. Her body tensed. "It's them," she whispered. "They came back for me." Jaren looked out the window. Far across the sand, 2 dark shapes were moving slowly toward the farm. He didn't know who they were yet. But one thing was clear. Aya was no longer alone, and he was ready to fight for her. For the first time in her life, she had a name. Aya. It was a small word, but to her it felt heavy, important. Like she had finally stepped out of the shadow of being nothing. She was no longer 617 Zeta, no longer just the weak one or the extra. She was Aya, and someone had given her that name without asking anything in return. After the alarm rang, the world changed again. Jaren had seen movement near the outer fence. He stood on the porch, his rifle steady in his hands. His eyes scanned the dry land. Footprints, 2 sets, not animals, walkers. Aya watched from the small window inside the house. She didn't speak. She didn't move. Her hands gripped the wooden frame tightly. Stay there, Jaren had told her, but she couldn't help listening, heart pounding, breath shallow. She knew the sound of slavers' boots. She knew what it meant when they came back. They didn't care about mistakes, they didn't leave loose ends. Jaren didn't fire, not yet. The 2 figures at the fence turned away after a while. Wanderers? Scouts? Or maybe they were just confirming she was still alive. Either way, it wasn't over. That night, Jaren installed extra locks on the doors and powered up the old defense grid, rusty but still active. He didn't say it directly, but Aya knew. He was preparing for war. Later, as they sat in silence, she asked a question she had never dared before. Why did you name me Aya? Jaren looked up from his old toolbox. Because you deserve one. She looked confused. But I am not special. You're alive, he said. You have thoughts, feelings. That's enough. You're not just a thing. She turned away, but her voice trembled as she asked, Did you have a daughter? Jaren paused. I did, he said softly. A long time ago. What happened? He sighed. There was a war. I was sent far away. When I came back, she was gone. Aya lowered her head. I'm sorry. Jaren smiled, sadly. Me too. That night, Aya had a dream. In it, she stood in the middle of a great field, the sky filled with stars. She saw her younger self, weak, cold, begging for food through the bars of a cage. Then Jaren appeared, holding out a name like a glowing light, Aya. She reached for it, and the cage melted away. The next morning, she woke up and went outside on her own. Jaren was planting seed pods in the garden. His shirt was dusty, hands covered in soil. He didn't expect her to come out, but she knelt beside him quietly and started helping. She didn't say anything, but her actions spoke louder than words. Over the next few days, they worked together. Aya began feeding the animals, sweeping the floor, and even cooking small meals. She didn't know much, but she learned fast. And Jaren didn't treat her like a helper. He treated her like family. One evening, she looked at her reflection in the mirror. Her skin still showed scars. Her arms were still thin, but her eyes were different now. She looked like someone who had a place in the world. She whispered to herself, Aya. And for once she smiled, but peace didn't last. Jaren found a tracking device hidden deep inside, the collar he had removed. It had been silent, but not dead. Whoever had thrown her out might now be coming. Not to take her back, but to erase her completely. Aya sat on the roof that night, staring up at the stars. She wasn't trembling anymore. She wasn't hiding. She was thinking, and she made a choice. I don't want to run forever, she said. Jaren nodded. Then we fight. For the first time in her life, she wasn't just surviving. She was choosing to stand, not as a slave, not as a mistake, but as Aya, the girl who was given a name and now wanted to protect it. Nightfall brought silence to the desert, but it wasn't peace. The stars above blinked coldly and the wind carried something heavy, a feeling. Jaren felt it in his bones. Aya felt it in her chest. The stillness wasn't natural. They were being watched. Jaren spent the whole day preparing the farm, Old traps were set along the outer fence. Motion sensors were checked. His dusty rifle was cleaned and loaded. He didn't speak much, but his eyes said everything. They were coming. Aya helped quietly, dragging scrap metal to block windows, placing decoys in the barn. Her body still ached, but she didn't complain. For the first time, she wasn't just being protected. She was protecting something too. At sunset, Jaren handed her a small metal pendant. "What's this?" she asked softly. "My daughter used to wear it," he said. "Keeps the mind calm in chaos. Might help." Aya held it close, her fingers trembling. "I'll try to be brave," she whispered. "You already are." As darkness fell, Aya sat by the window. She watched the shadows stretch across the sand. Then she saw it. Red lights. Moving. Far in the distance, small flashing dots crept toward the farm, silent, slow, and certain. Her breath caught. "They're here." Jaren looked through the scope. 2 armored skiffs, at least 6 men, heavy. Weapons, slavers, no uniforms, no flags. But their faces were familiar to him. Killers for hire. "They're not here to reclaim," Jaren muttered. "They're here to wipe clean." Aya felt her stomach twist. "Because of me?" He looked at her. "Because you're worth more than they realized." He gave her a small transmitter. "If I fall," he said, "go to the cave on the east ridge, hide, wait 3 days, then run." "I won't leave you," she said. "You have to survive." She stepped closer and took his hand. "No," she whispered. "We survive. Together." The attack began just after midnight. The slavers came in fast, hover bikes kicking, up dust, weapons flashing. But Jaren was ready. His traps triggered, one exploded, blasting a rider off his seat. Gunfire cracked the air. Jaren stood in front of the barn, rifle steady, shouting like a soldier from long ago. Aya ducked behind cover, but she watched everything. And when one slaver slipped through the back heading toward the house, she didn't hide. He kicked open the door and saw her. She froze, holding a wrench. He raised his weapon, but before he could shoot, something inside her snapped. A rush of energy burst from her chest, blue light rippling like fire. The slaver flew across the room and crashed. Into the wall unconscious, Aya stared at her hands. What did I just do? Her body shook, not from fear, but from awakening. Outside, Jaren noticed the flash from the window. He smiled. "She's fighting back," he whispered. "Good girl." But his celebration was cut short. A bullet grazed his leg. He gritted his teeth and ducked behind the tractor. 3 left, still closing in. Too many, too fast. Just as one aimed for a final shot, the barn door opened, and Aya walked out. Her eyes glowed faintly. The pendant around her neck pulsed. She raised her hands. "Stop." The slavers hesitated. "What is this?" one said, laughing. "The little rat thinks she's special?" Aya's voice was calm. "I am." The wind picked up. Dust swirled. A strange pressure filled the air. The slaver took a step forward, and the ground beneath him cracked. He dropped his weapon, falling to his knees. What is this?" Aya's voice grew stronger. "I'm not yours anymore." Jaren, still bleeding, looked at her in shock. She wasn't just a survivor. She was something more, something powerful. The last slavers fled, leaving their skiffs behind. Aya walked over to Jaren and helped him up. He winced but smiled through the pain. "You saved me," he said. She shook her head. "No, you saved me first. Now we're even." That night they didn't sleep. They sat by the fire, side by side. Jaren looked at her carefully. "You said they called you worthless." Aya nodded. He smirked. "Funny. Looked pretty valuable to me out there." She smiled, small but bright. And for the first time, she believed it. The farm smelled like smoke and burned metal. Jaren's leg was wrapped tightly in cloth. His rifle lay beside him on the porch. Aya sat close, watching the horizon. The slavers were gone, for now. But everyone knew this wasn't over. She had shown her power, and power never stays hidden for long. "Will they come again?" she asked quietly. Jaren nodded. "Yes. Next time they'll send more." Aya looked down. They still want me? They want what's inside you, he said. Your blood, your energy. Something ancient, something they don't understand, that's why they fear you. But I'm just a girl. Jaren smiled. A girl who knocked down a grown man with pure force. Aya didn't answer. But deep inside, her heart whispered something new. I am not weak anymore. The next morning they found a message left behind. A small metal cube sat where the slavers' skiffs had been. Jaren scanned it. A projection appeared, a cold voice, emotionless and firm. To the human sheltering subject 617 Zeta. She is registered as property of Dravox Mining Union. Return her, or be destroyed. You have 3 days. Aya's face went pale. They're not done with me. Jaren looked at her, then crushed the cube beneath his boot. No, but I'm done with them. They spent the next 2 days preparing. Jaren taught Aya how to hold a weapon, not to kill, but to protect. He showed her how to track movement, how to read the wind, how to listen to silence. Aya practiced controlling the strange energy inside her. It wasn't magic. It was something in her blood, tied to her heart and emotions. When she focused, her hands sparked with blue light. The fear inside her began to change. It became strength. On the 3rd day, a shadow appeared in the sky. Large ship, not a skiff, not scouts. A war barge. It hovered above the desert, and 6 large drones dropped into the sand, moving fast toward the farm. Behind them came armored mercenaries. Taller, stronger, fully armed. Aya stood by Jaren at the front gate. They came for me, she whispered. No, Jaren said. They came for a fight. The battle was brutal. The drones launched fireballs. Jaren fired from the roof, hitting targets one by one. Aya moved through the dust like wind, her energy flashing like lightning. One mercenary tried to corner her, his boots crushing the sand, his blade drawn. Aya looked up at him, eyes glowing. I am not your thing, she said. Then her hand struck the ground, and a shockwave knocked him flying. Jaren, though injured, didn't stop fighting. He used every trick, every trap, every ounce of strength to hold them back. When he collapsed beside the chicken coop, bleeding again, Aya rushed to him. I can't lose you, she cried. You won't, he said, coughing. Not today. Then, something unexpected happened. As the last 2 mercenaries closed in, ready to finish it, Aya's energy burst again. But this time, it wasn't just a flash. It spread across the field in a wave of glowing light. The weapons of the attackers short-circuited. Their armor froze. The mercs fell to the ground, twitching, confused. Aya stood in the center of it all, barefoot, glowing, unshaken. The war barge above stopped moving. Then, slowly, it turned away. Retreat. Whoever sent them had just realized something terrifying. This girl was no longer prey. She was becoming a threat. Hours later, the fire was out. The attackers were gone. The silence returned. Aya sat next to Jaren under the stars. Her body was tired, her eyes full of emotion. They'll keep coming, won't they? She asked. Jaren nodded. Yes, but now they know. This fight won't be easy. She looked at him. I don't want to keep running. I want to protect this place. I want to protect you. He smiled. Then you're already stronger than most. She leaned against his shoulder and whispered, Before, I was nothing now, and they fight entire battles just to take me back. Jaren chuckled. Funny how that works. The desert was quiet again, too quiet. The sand was stained where the battle happened, but the bodies were gone. The war barge had vanished into the sky. No more drones. No more soldiers. But something still remained. Questions. Questions about what Aya really was, and why the slavers were so afraid of her. Jaren rested in bed with his bandaged side propped up. Aya sat nearby, gently changing the cloth and cleaning the wounds with water. You healed fast, Jaren whispered, surprised. My injuries. 3 days old, and you already look stronger than ever. Aya didn't respond. She had felt it too. Since the fight, something inside her had shifted. Her energy, her life was growing stronger, almost wild. That evening, as the twin moons rose, Jaren opened a hidden case under the floor. Inside it was a device no one used anymore, a gene reader smuggled out from the war. "I want to test something," he said. Aya sat in front of the machine, unsure. "What if I don't like what it shows?" "Truth is better than fear," Jaren replied. The machine buzzed and blinked as it scanned her arm. Then, it stopped, and the screen glowed. "Red classified species detected, forbidden biotype. Access denied." Jaren's eyes narrowed. "Forbidden?" Aya looked pale. "I'm a mistake, aren't I?" Jaren shook his head. "No. You're rare. Too rare. That's why they dumped you. They couldn't control you. But they also couldn't risk you being found." He ran an override, courtesy bypassing the block. The screen opened a long-lost report. Subject DNA matches proto-Zentari lineage. Thought extinct. Known for energy manipulation, deep memory transfer, and extreme emotional resonance. Last recorded 600 years ago. Considered dangerous due to uncontrollable bonding traits. Aya blinked. "What does that mean?" Jaren leaned back slowly. "You're from a species that can't be owned. You bond, not obey. You don't just remember, you absorb emotion, you learn by feeling." He looked her in the eye. "You weren't weak, you were too strong to break." Aya stood and walked outside. Her heart raced. The wind rushed through her hair. So that was it. She wasn't thrown away because she failed, she was thrown away because she couldn't be turned into a weapon. Suddenly flashes hit her mind. Memories she didn't live. A woman screaming in a burning temple. A child hiding under leaves as machines passed overhead. An old man whispering, "We are the last. The stars forget us, but the blood remembers." Aya stumbled, falling to her knees in the sand. Her head felt heavy. Her blood burned. Jaren ran to her and caught her before she collapsed. "What's happening?" he asked. Aya's hands glowed, but not bright, pale, cold, like winter wind instead of fire. "I saw things from someone else's life. From my people." Jaren helped her back inside. "Then your power's waking up completely. That memory transfer. It's real." That night she had another vision. This time, it wasn't violent. She saw a group of Zentari children laughing in a green valley under a glowing sky. Their hands glowed like hers. Their voices hummed in rhythm, sharing thoughts without speaking. A peaceful race, now almost extinct. She woke up with tears in her eyes. "I know who I am now," she whispered, "and I know what they feared." Jaren sat beside her, nodding. "You're not a mistake, Aya, you're a legacy." She looked down at her hands. "If I can share memories, can I give mine to someone else too?" "Why?" "So no one forgets we were real." Suddenly, the screen on the old comm system buzzed out a message. Unit 617 Zeta registered as threat class. Galactic bounty issued. Reward, 50,000 credits. Jaren stared at it. So now the whole galaxy knows. Aya didn't flinch. She stood tall. "Then let them come. I'll show them what one worthless girl can do." Outside, the stars shimmered over the sand. But deep underground, far from the farm, others were watching. Machines scanned her biosignature. A new force was moving. Not slavers this time, but scientists, hunters, and worse. Aya had awakened her legacy, but she had also awakened the galaxy. The desert wind was quiet, but Aya could feel the pressure in the air, like the galaxy had turned its eyes toward her. The bounty was real. The message had spread. She was now hunted, not as a slave, not as property, but as a living weapon. Jaren fixed the fence in silence. His wounds still ached, but he moved like a man who had already made peace with danger. Aya brought him water and sat nearby, watching the horizon. Every day now she expected ships, but none came. Not yet. "I should leave," she said one morning. "If I stay, they'll find you too." Jaren shook his head slowly. "You don't Run from family, Aya. But I'm not your daughter. He looked her in the eyes. No, you're something else. You're the person I was meant to protect, even if I didn't know it when you fell from the sky. She didn't reply. She just leaned against him, and for the first time, she didn't feel like a burden. She felt like she belonged. That night, they buried the last of the broken equipment. Drones from the last attack, shattered armor, a melted skiff engine. As they worked, Aya said softly, "My people used to live in harmony. We didn't own land. We became part of it. We sang to the ground, and it sang back." Jaren paused. "What happened?" She looked up at the moons. "We trusted the stars. The stars sold us." Aya stood before the field, hands raised. Energy flowed gently from her fingers. Not lightning, not fire. Life. Small flowers began to grow where sand once ruled. Green cracked through dry ground. Jaren stared in awe. "You can grow things?" Aya smiled faintly. "I can try." The next day a stranger came. A young woman in a dusty robe approached on foot, hands raised. "I don't have weapons," she said. "I just want to talk." Jaren kept his hand near his rifle. "Who are you?" "I heard the bounty," she replied. "But I didn't come to collect it. I came to warn her." Aya stepped out from the barn. "Me?" The woman nodded. "They're not sending slavers anymore. They're sending scientists, cold ones. They don't want you dead. They want you in pieces." Aya's jaw clenched. "Then they'll find nothing but dust here." That night, Aya sat by the fire with Jaren and the traveler, who called herself Lysa. "They'll keep coming," Lysa said. "Not for the money, for control." Aya stared at the flames. "Then I won't hide." "You can't fight the whole galaxy," Lysa warned. Aya looked at Jaren, then back at her. "I don't need to." She placed her hand on the earth. "I'll make a place they can't touch." Over the next weeks, something incredible began. The land around the farm started to change. Grass grew. Water bubbled from underground. Animals returned. The energy inside Aya wasn't just destructive. It was healing. Where she walked, life followed. Word began to spread, not about a bounty, but about a miracle. A desert turning green. A girl with glowing hands. A human man who stood beside her like stone. Soon, others came. Not to capture, but to live. Refugees, outcasts, orphans. They built homes beside the old farmhouse. They planted crops. They sang songs from lost worlds. One evening, Aya stood at the edge of the growing village. A small alien child ran up to her and handed her a flower. "This place is warm," the child said. "Are you the queen?" Aya smiled. "No, just a girl." The child laughed. "A powerful one." Later, Jaren walked up beside her. "You made something new," he said. "Not just a home, a future." Aya looked around at the lights, the laughter, the peace. "Maybe," she whispered. "That's what I was always meant for." The galaxy would still hunt her. But now, she wasn't alone. She had a people. She had a purpose. She had a place where children could grow up safe, where no one was sold and no one was discarded. And she had Jaren, not by blood, but by choice. From the stars, a girl once fell. Now, from the ground, a new world had risen, all because one human man had chosen not to walk away.